Hey everybody, I'm Rook. Welcome to the table. We're here. It's finally time to profile some decks here from the new starter decks that have come out after a lot of play testing. I have a few decks ironed out for you guys. I'll be releasing throughout the month here, but wanted to start with the deck that I'm currently using competitively. This one utilizes Twisted Nightmares very heavily. The closest thing I can call it is a Warrior Burn deck, so that's what I'm presenting to you guys today. This is, like I said, the deck that I'm using right now in tournaments. And it's working pretty well for me, and I want to profile it for you today. So, this is going to utilize Merrick's Twisted Personality. We have the Merrick skill right here. Twisted Personality, the card that you're probably seeing everywhere. Twisted Personality is every time either player takes battle damage, you get a counter on the card. When you have 2 counters, you can ditch those counters to discard a card from your opponent's hand randomly. And when it has 3 counters, you can ditch those 3 counters to completely destroy a face-up card your opponent controls. Now, it is max 3 counters, and this is every time either player takes battle damage, so that's what's really, really good. You'd think that it'd be like every time you take battle damage, right? That's kind of the Merrick in the skill. But no, it's every time either player takes battle damage. So with all the cards that have come out and people nicking each other for 500 life points here and there, you really don't realize how quickly the life point damage builds up. Like, you're consistently getting 2 to 3 counters like every turn, every other turn with this. Twisted Personality is, I would say, currently the skill to use if you aren't sure what skill to use, really. But it works super, super well here because I have a lot of cards that burn your opponent and deal life point damage. So finding myself consistently at the max counters, and I'm able to use Twisted Personality's 3 counter ditch to get rid of some huge monster or maybe a back row that I'm having a hard time dealing with. So Twisted Personality is a skill here. Moving on to the Warrior piece, going to monsters, we have 3 Amazoness Swordswoman. Now, I know you don't probably see Amazoness Swordswoman too often at this point, but I like Amazoness Swordswoman 1 because Amazoness was the first deck I played in Speed Duel, but most importantly, there are a lot of other cards that I run in this deck that synergize with Amazoness Swordswoman's effect where the opponent will take the battle damage. And the goal is to have Amazoness Swordswoman fight against a huge boss monster to deal battle damage to the opponent at the point where it's worth sacrificing her, or of course, if you're using half shot, she doesn't die at all, and that's more damage to your opponent, and that's counters on Twisted Personality. So 3 Amazoness Swordswoman here. And then to round out with some Warrior synergy, I do run 2 Command Knight. Command Knight you typically see in all Warrior decks while it's out. It is 1200 attack. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned Amazoness Swordswoman's 1500 attack, 1600 defense. But Command Knight is 1200 attack, 1900 defense. That defense you usually don't see coming. You typically will set this card, but what it does is it boosts all Warriors attack by 400. So this does bring Amazoness Swordswoman up to 19, but additionally, Command Knight's effect that's really great is that while this card is on the field, you can't target it for attacks. If I have another monster out, you're forced to target the other monsters for attacks. So if I have Command Knight and Amazoness Swordswoman out, my opponent has to target Amazoness Swordswoman first. Additionally, if I get both Command Knights out, I can actually lock my opponent into being unable to attack until they figure out how to get rid of one of those Command Knights off the field. So Command Knight's really good, buffs the Amazoness Swordswoman, and it has good effects of its own. Next up, after playtesting, I've determined that Santa Claus is a good card in this deck. I really haven't put Santa Claus in any other deck, but Santa Claus is similar to Lava Golem. You tribute a monster your opponent controls and you give him Santa Claus. It's 1200 attack, 2500 defense. You actually tribute a monster they control and put it in defense mode on their side of the field. So 2500 defense is really, really hard to get over, but if I have Amazoness Swordswoman on the field, that's a free 1000 damage I can give to the opponent because I can just slam into that defense mode monster with Swordswoman and they'll have to take 1000 for it if they don't have a response to stop the attack. Plus, Santa Claus, I'm tributing a monster from my opponent's side of the field. That could be a Moth, that could be a Zoma, that could be something that's really, really scary and hard to deal with, and Santa Claus is just going to say, no, I'm going to get some damage in for free, and there goes your big monster. So Santa Claus is working here. Additionally, with Santa Claus, that turn that you tribute it to your opponent's side of the field, they do get to draw an extra card at the end phase. So that's a downside to Santa Claus, but I think it's worth it for getting rid of a big monster of theirs and getting the damage in with something like Swordswoman. And moving right along with the tribute theme, 2 Lava Golem. 2 might be excessive, but I am certainly using 2 and it's working. When it comes to siding, I probably side one of these out. But I start strong with 2 because a lot of the times I'm playing an opponent where I'm just trying to get a field set up and they most likely have 2 monsters on the field. When I have the Lava Golem, I can tribute 2 of their monsters to put Lava Golem on their side of the field, and Lava Golem will burn them for 1000 life points on their standby phase, which is huge. 4 times and you're dead in Speed Duel. So that's really, really huge. The downside is that you're giving them a 3000 attack monster, but with Amazoness Swordswoman, my goal is to get large monsters on my opponent's side of the field that I can use Swordswoman to run into to deal more damage to them. I think that the battle damage the Amazoness Swordswoman would do, combined with the burden effects of something like Lava Golem and other cards I have in my deck, are going to be enough to absolutely destroy my opponent before they have a chance to react. So 2 Lava Golem. Okay, and last monster, 2 Sphere Kuriboh. A little bit of defense here. 2 Sphere Kuriboh I think fits well here. I usually am trying to run something like Windstorm in this deck, but I'm actually not doing that this time. I'm running 2 Sphere Kuriboh. Sphere Kuriboh is that quick defense you need just to be able to deflect an attack if there's something you want to keep on the field just a little longer, or maybe you're caught with your pants down and they have a huge monster like the Moth setup, for example. Sphere Kuriboh is going to get you out of that and keep you alive. To re-explain the effect, you drop it to the graveyard whenever your opponent declares an attack, and it switches that opponent's monster in defense mode, essentially deflecting that attack. So Sphere Kuriboh is really, really versatile here. And that is the monsters. Moving on to spells. We have 1 Twister. Okay, 1 Twister and 1 Night Beam. Now my side deck has additional Night Beams and Twisters depending on what I'm playing against when I'm looking to side into game 2. So Night Beam is I can target a face down card in the back row my opponent controls, and it gets rid of it. They can't chain in response. Don't see a lot of people run something like Waking the Dragon where that's bad for me, so Night Beam still seems to work. You can snipe that Zoma before he activates it. You can snipe that Nightmare Wheel before it gets set on you. And then Twister, of course, a really, really good card at this point because everybody's running cards like Nightmare Wheel and Zoma, which both end up being face-up continuous traps in one way or another. Twister will be able to destroy a face-up trap your opponent controls if you pay 500 life points. Typically paying the life points is bad, but with Twisted Personality it gets me another counter. So maybe I have 2 counters in my main phase, and I need that extra counter to get rid of their huge monster. I notice they have a Nightmare Wheel on me. I can Twister that Nightmare Wheel. Nightmare Wheel's gone, and I'm paying 500 life points, which puts me at 3 counters, which I can then ditch in my main phase to destroy a monster that they control. So it all kind of works well with each other. A lot of these cards, the goal is to try and get little bits of battle damage, whether it's to yourself, to your opponent, to build your Twisted Personality. So Twister and Night Beam, I do side additional ones just in case, depending on what I'm playing, maybe somebody doesn't have any face-up traps and they're running a heavy back row, and maybe I'll side out the Twister for a Night Beam. But there's that magic removal for you there. And last spell, 2 Half Shut. Half Shut is another card that you don't typically see at this point in the Speed Duel format, but I think it pairs very, very nicely with Amazoness Swordswoman because it keeps Amazoness Swordswoman alive and it's more battle damage to the opponent. So say that I get a Lava Golem tribute on my opponent's side of the field and I have the lone Swordswoman up against the Lava Golem. If I just run Swordswoman and the Lava Golem, that's 1,500 to them, which is very substantial in Speed Duel. If I flip the Half Shut, Swordswoman stays alive and the attack is halved. So Half Shut's effect is that you half the attack of a monster, but then the upside is that it's not destroyed by battle. So Swordswoman's attack's halved is 750. All of a sudden I'm crashing a Swordswoman that can't die with 750 attack into a Lava Golem, and your opponent's taking the battle damage. And like I said, Lava Golem is just an example here. It could be Moth, it could be Oracle, it could be something big where maybe not even 1,000 life points is all you need at this point. Half Shut Swordswoman works really, really well. Moving on to traps. 2 different traps, 6 traps total. 3 Nightmare Wheel. Nightmare Wheel is pretty self-explanatory at this point. This is a card that everybody is running. You can target a monster your opponent controls, and it's not even an equip card. It just becomes unable to attack or change battle positions, and every time on your standby phase they take 500. So this locks an opponent's monster from attacking, and it burns them for 500 life points each of their standby phases, which is a counter on Twisted Personality. So I lock their opponent where the only way they can really get rid of it is if they figure out a way to get rid of my Nightmare Wheel, or if they're able to maybe tribute it for something else. Nightmare Wheel really ruins the momentum of a lot of good setups. So 3 of those. I find that that's also the rest of the defense that I need, and I don't feel the need to run something like Windstorm at this point. So 3 Nightmare Wheel. And then last trap, of course, 3 Zoma the Spirit. Another card that everybody's running at this point. You should see this trap set up pretty consistently in a lot of decks. Zoma the Spirit is really, really good here just because of the life point damage it can deal to your opponent. So Zoma is technically a trap that you can flip, and it becomes an effect monster, 1800 attack, 500 defense, and it goes into a monster slot in defense mode when you activate it. Now 500 defense is easy to beat over, but Zoma's other effect is that if it's destroyed by battle after summoned this way, your opponent takes life point damage equals to the monster they used to destroy it. So say they have a Newdoria, which is 1200 attack, and my Zoma's in defense, and they beat over Zoma with Newdoria, they are still taking 1200 points of life point damage, which of course is a counter on Twisted Personality. Now you think about something like Lava Golem, something like Moth, anything with like 2500 or more attack trying to beat over this Zoma, that's really going to hurt them, and that could be more than half their life points right there. They're really going to have to struggle to find something like Twister to get Zoma off the field so that they don't have to deal with that. So Zoma is really, really annoying. Best way to go about this is set Zoma, and then on your opponent's end phase, you activate Zoma so you can put it up in defense. Your turn starts, and then you're able to spin it into attack. That's 1800 attack, which is like the strongest 4-star monster right now, and you can do some serious damage with it. You can also use it to crash into a monster, take some life point damage, there's a counter, and then they take the life point damage equal to their monster's attack, there's a second counter. Just so many ways you can get a lot of counters on Twisted Personality to then start ditching cards from your opponent's hand or completely wiping their field of face-up monsters and traps. So that's it, guys. That is my Warrior Burn deck that I'm currently using competitively right now. Side deck, I don't have it prepared, but it's basically more Twisters, more Night Beams. I have a couple Offerings to the Doomed in there in case I'm dealing with something like Relinquish or Thousand Eyes Restrict, where I just absolutely don't want to deal with this. Maybe I don't have Lava Golem in my hand. Offerings to the Doom is going to get rid of that right away. But I'm finding that this deck's very versatile and it works for me. And I hope it works for you guys too. This deck can also be tweaked if you completely remove the Warriors. That's totally fine. You can remove Amazonas Swordswoman Command Knight half shot, and you can sprinkle some other burn cards in there. But I hope you guys like this. Of course, this is all pretty fresh, and I'm finding this works, but if you guys have any other suggestions or whatever you guys are doing with Twisted Personality, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Subscribe for more, and if you like this video, feel free to hit the like button, as I plan to have some more deck profiles out for you guys as the month continues, along with some other stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you next time.